I'm Ashley, I'm the ranch manager, and I'm joined by Miss Anya. She is our lead guide and horse wrangler for this year. And we are joined by 5 of our wonderful Tennessee walking horses here. We wanted to do a little introduction to you today on their personalities. Horses are just like us. They've all got different personalities. They come from all walks of life, and they have things that they like and that they don't like, and horses they like and don't like. So we're going to walk you through 5 of our most frequently seen characters here around the ranch. But first, let's introduce ourselves. I've been working here for a little over a year now. I started out as a wrangler last summer when we were closed for COVID. Sorry, a bug just flew right into my mouth. I was here living at the ranch, so I was waking up every day, rolling out of bed to go play with horses. I worked here over the winter, slinging hay out of the back of the truck in the snow, so it's been a lot of fun. And I was able to manage the ranch this summer, taking ride bookings and calling guests and making sure the whole thing goes. And Miss Anya has been there every step of the way this summer, making sure that the rides do in fact get to go out. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came to Dunrovin?
Yeah, so for those of you that are seeing me for the first time and weren't able to join us for the broadcast last week, my name is Anya. I joined Dunrovin here late this spring. And for this season here so far have been our lead guide, so taking guests out on trail rides down to cross the river into the Sapphire Mountains. And you know, as part of that, I don't just get to have all the fun on horseback. I'm also here helping Ashley and taking care of the horses on a daily basis. You know, we all chime in together. We show up for feeding, for mucking, for grooming, and just getting to interact with all these boys and girls every day.
Yeah, we've got a good solid team of 4, I would say wranglers. I mean, myself included, me, Anya. We've got Cherie, who you guys have definitely seen around. She's our resident osprey expert. You'll usually see her, you know, in the chat talking about what the ospreys are doing, or she's riding her trusty steed Butte. And then we also have Nicole, who is around. She does a lot of the morning feedings. She also helps us out a lot with the Airbnb apartments that we have here. So we're very thankful to have all of the staff that we do. And I feel like all of our personalities as humans mesh really well together. We've put together a pretty awesome team for the summer, and it's been a lot of fun. But let's go ahead and talk about our horses that we have here. So we'll start with Miss Lady Lonza here. She is, of course, the matriarch of our herd. She was the first horse to be born and raised here at Dunrovin. She's Suzanne Miller's personal horse, the owner. We've used her as a guide horse over the years. She's had 3 foals, one of which is to my left here, Mr. Augie. Lady Lonza is a, as you can see, strong-willed individual. She is a mare, and anyone has heard about mares, you know, they have a tendency to have a little bit of an attitude sometimes, and that's a lot of mare energy, and that's kind of why we only have one of them here. She's very, very sweet with people, especially if you can convince her of what you want to get done. But if she wants her way, she's gonna have it. She's just gonna, nope, I'm not gonna do it. So usually if I need her to do something, I find that sweet talking to her usually does the trick. So if I go in and I give her some baby talk, I'm like, oh, Miss Lady, how are you today? You just see her whole face soften up. She's like, I'm doing fine, thank you. I'll do whatever you'd like.
Oh, she loves to be loved on and babied. She's the queen here. She's the queen. She needs to be treated like a queen, and that's how you can convince her to do anything.
Absolutely, but she keeps all of the boys in check. All day long, 365 days a year. Doesn't matter if it's rain or snow or shine, she's gonna tell the boys off, hey, you need to get out of my personal space, leave my baby alone. The one that she especially does not get along with is Mr. Monty over here. He is our oldest horse in the herd, and therefore he doesn't take any of Lady Lonza's attitude. So they're the 2 that you usually see fighting or arguing with one another. And she usually will pick on some of the other boys just to get them out of her space. She's like, you're 0.7 millimeters too close to me. I need you out of my bubble over here. But that brings us to her baby over here. This is Mr. Augie. He's the Prince of Dunrovin, the spoiled 4-year-old baby that he is. He is very, very sweet. He's almost like a dog, practically. And you can see he's kind of licking my hand and playing with it right now. I've been working with Augie since, I think, October of last year, October of 2020, getting him trained for driving. So I've been working via teletraining with our trainer, Brandon Carpenter, who lives in just outside of Billings in Montana. He lives in Shepherd. He's a gaited horse, Tennessee walking horse breeder and trainer, cattle rancher. And he and Suzanne originally came up with the concept of teletraining a few years ago, which is what we purchased Mystery, this black horse over to my right for. We purchased him from Brandon, specifically for the intent of training him via the cameras. So we did the same thing with Augie here. He had already been started by one of the other wranglers and ranch managers from before. So I didn't have to do any of that full handling or things like that, but it was a lot of refreshing on his manners, ground manners, and then teaching him how to drive, teaching him to wear a saddle, stand still to get saddled up, stand still to get hooked up to his stone boat and everything. But because he's been so spoiled by his mom, he doesn't really respect anyone's rules, doesn't really respect what anyone has to say. And so you can tell the difference between the new wranglers when they try to move him versus me trying to move him. There's definitely a different level of respect there that he's got going on because he knows I'll be the boss of him. Back.
Absolutely, and it's uncanny, you know, for somebody even such as myself that's been around horses, you know, my whole life. They're so smart, and they definitely know. They have our numbers. So Augie knows the difference between when Ashley's here and when I'm here. With me, he'll still try to get away with all of the things. With Ashley, he knows, like, oh, nope, this lady's in charge. I won't even try.
Back. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of time today to show off some round pen training with Augie. I do also have some special training coming up for him now that we're slowing down for the riding season. Augie's ready to go back to school. So keep your eye out on our Days at Dunrovin calendar for that. I'll be adding some training sessions throughout the week with Mr. Augie here, getting him back into schooling, refreshing his manners, refreshing his groundwork. And I've got a little secret in store for you guys, so you're gonna wanna check it out. So let's move on to our next horse over here. I'm gonna walk Augie, and I guess Miss Anya will start with Mystery that she's standing next to.
All right. So hopefully you all can see this handsome gentleman here. Let me get out of your way. So this is Mystery. Ashley, do you want me to bring him into the arena?
I think we're okay right there.
Hopefully you all can see this, but this here is Mystery, my handsome gentleman. So for a little bit of terminology for you non-horse people, some of you may have heard Ashley refer to Lady Lonza as a mare. A mare is a female horse. And so all of these guys here, these are all geldings. And geldings are castrated males. So Mystery is one of our geldings here. He just turned 11 years old. And he, as Ashley had mentioned, came from one of Suzanne's dearest friends, Brandon Carpenter, a gaited horse trainer. And he's been here, came to Dunrovin specifically for teletraining. So pretty much the entirety of Mystery's training took place via teletraining, where the lady that was training him was on a Bluetooth phone with Brandon, the trainer and instructor, at his ranch in Billings, Montana. And so she would hear him on the Bluetooth while Brandon saw what she was doing with Mystery in the arena on his computer. So he would give her pointers and tell her what to do through that teletraining process. And that was actually really, really neat.
His first ride under saddle was actually here at Dunrovin with that wrangler. I think her name was Taryn. That was a few years ago.
Yeah, I believe you're correct.
Yeah. So his first saddle ride ever was at Dunrovin. His first guided trail rides were here at Dunrovin. So he's been, practically raised here for the last 6 years that we've had him. So he's a very, very social horse. He's got a lot of friends in the herd. He's got a lot of guys that he likes to hang out with. He's not too big of a fan of Chinook, but nobody really is, and we'll get into that. But he definitely knows his place. He knows where his boundaries are. He knows not to mess with other horses, which is something that's really important in a herd of horses. They have a hierarchy of who's at the top, who's at the bottom, and they figure out where they fall in between. Mystery, I would say, he's kind of more in the middle, but more kind of at the bottom. He hasn't been here as long as some of the other horses, so sometimes he'll get pushed away from his flake of food or, flake of hay in the pasture, so another horse higher up on the totem pole can come take it. But he also will push around some other horses. He'll boss around Chinook, he'll boss around Augie, he bosses around Flynn, one of our other horses that's really low. So horses will kind of figure out their role in the herd, and you can really see their personality through it. You can see that, a more dominant kind of confident horse would be higher up on the line because, they have the confidence to push another horse out of their way. Whereas you have another horse that's lower in the herd, like Chinook, he usually just hangs out by himself. Same thing with Flynn. He's an absolute sweetheart of a horse. And maybe sometimes you'll see him parked next to another one, but he's usually hanging out by himself as well. So is there anything else you want to say about Mystery? How about your rides? How have those been going?
Yeah, so that's something that I'd love to talk about, because so far I think we've only mentioned their personalities in relation to each other and the herd. But horses' personalities also play a lot into what kind of riding they might excel at. And so for us here, when Ashley and I are taking guests out, we need a horse that has a lot of courage and a strong personality so that they make a great guide horse. And that's something that I think Mystery really excels at, because he does want to really please his rider, and he has the courage to try new and potentially scary things. And when I say scary, that could be a deer in a meadow, or that could be a bird that suddenly flies out from a bush.
Or opening a gate.
Oh, absolutely. So he might stop, but because he's a very intelligent horse, he might stop and spook a little bit, but he spooks in place. He looks at whatever just startled him, and he processes his way through it and then says, okay, this is fine, we can move on.
And that's a very important trait to have with guest horses, or dude ranch horses as they're called. We want our horses to be aware of their surroundings and be not reactive to it, but be aware of what's going on. And if something scary does happen, we want them to do what you said, kind of spook in place, wait, think about what's happening, process, am I actually in danger? Am I actually gonna get eaten, or am I okay? And then once they see that your guide horse, so say if Mystery stayed calm, but another one of our horses spooked at something, as long as they see another horse staying calm, they can stay calm. They don't get themselves overworked or anything like that, which is great with the Tennessee Walker breed. They're a very easygoing, very sure and confident breed of horse. So there's not a whole lot that will scare them. There's been a few rides where I'm out with Chinook and a couple of deer pop out of the bushes, and he kind of startles. And there's been a few times where Jasper has tried to take off, one of our other horses. He usually goes out on the trail. And then once Jasper sees that Chinook isn't going anywhere, he's like, oh, I'm okay. Let's go. Let's keep going.
And that's herd instinct, actually, because in the wild, and we talked about Lady Lonza being our matriarch here, in the wild, oftentimes it is a mare or a female that kind of takes over the mother role of the entire herd. And so when they are on the move, it's that female that is at the lead. And the entire herd takes their cues from that horse in the lead. So that's kind of the guide horse here in our situation. So the horses following along will take their cues from the guide horse. If the guide horse kind of spooks in place, they all will think, okay, that must have not been that dangerous. But if you have a guide horse that tries to take off, there's a good chance all the other horses will try to spook and flee along with that
Because your other horses are following you. If you take 2 steps forward, they're gonna take 2 steps forward too. So if your horse spooks and bolts, well, there goes the rest of your horses with guests on them. So we want really calm, level-headed horses, which if there's anything else you want to say about Mystery, I think we can move on to Mr. Monty.
Absolutely.
On that note, speaking of calm and level-headed, this is the calmest horse that we have, probably one of the calmest ones that I've ever met. This is Monty. His name is Montana's Strollin' Joe, and he earned that name because he is just such a smooth, easygoing guy. He's 22 years old, so he's the oldest horse that we have. He, is still very lively and willing to go out on the trails, willing to please guests. You can tell he's kind of just over it at this point. He's been doing this for 18 years, as I'm sure anyone, after doing the same thing for 18 years in a row would be over it. But we continue using him because it keeps him limber, it keeps him in shape. If he was just to sit in a stall all day, he'd get, kind of old and arthritic and get stiff all the time. So you can definitely tell he's got some mornings where he's feeling a little stiffer. But Monty is truly the leader of the herd. Even just earlier today, I accidentally put him down in the pasture with the rest of the horses when I needed him up here for this broadcast. And I went down there to grab him with a halter, and as I started leading him up the hill, all the rest of the horses started running after me, trying to get caught up with Monty because he's the leader. They're like, where is my leader going? I need to go with him so I can stay safe. So you can tell that he's very well respected in the herd. He's not aggressive, he's not mean. He will go after another horse if he has to, but only if he absolutely has to. If all of his warning signs and body language and ears back and teeth flared have done nothing, then he'll, go after another horse. With the exception being, like I said, Lady Lonza, these two just don't seem to get along. I think they've been around each other for a very, very long time, and they know each other's buttons to push. So I've seen Monty put a hoof on Lady Lonza. I've seen her kick him and put a hoof on him. So they've got a little sibling rivalry going on there. But Monty's been just a tried and true, great guest horse for us. He's done packing in the past. He's been a guide horse for a very long time. So he's been there, done it all, seen it all. And he's just an awesome horse. And you want a calm, level-headed horse to be the leader of your herd because, you want someone that's not going to freak out over any little thing to keep the rest of the herd at ease and calm. So anytime before, I put them in the pasture for a first time, he's standing there right at the gate with Whiskey, one of our other horses, his right-hand man right there at his side. They're looking over the whole landscape, making sure that everything is safe for their herd to go in. And then once you see Monty go in, the rest of the herd will follow behind them. So it's really cool to see that kind of confidence and leadership take on its role in a horse, and just to see and feel the other horses trust him that they're gonna stay safe with him. So I love Monty. He's one of my favorites here. He's very, very sweet. He's one of those ones that loves to be petted. He loves to be baby talked. And he just loves the attention. He just loves being a good horse. He's got some flies right now. So let's go over here to Mr. Chinook. You heard your name and he perked his ears up. Hi, buddy. Hello. So Chinook is just an absolutely gorgeous horse. He is an 18-year-old Tennessee Walker. Suzanne got him, I think when he was very young. I want to say just a few years old, maybe a little bit older, 5 or 6. When her last guide horse suddenly passed away, she picked up Chinook and he was just terrified of everything. He's a very nervous Ned. You can tell it when he's out in the pasture. He's not too sure what's going on. And that was before he had these nifty sunglasses on. He ended up going blind in his right eye over here in 2017 due to some smoke from some bad wildfires, and he got what's called uveitis, which is an inflammation in the eye from UV, from pollutants, from irritants and things like that. And so when his eye does get, he does have flare-ups, it overreacts. So that's why we keep the sunglasses on both eyes, the good and the bad, or vice versa. So that way his good eye doesn't overreact and cause any more blindness in that one. So I've held these up to my eyes before. I can see through it. It's a very finely woven mesh. So it's supposed to keep things out of his eye, especially if we're going down the trail, we're running into sticks and branches. If he can't see him in his bad eye, I don't want him to get poked in the eye by something, so we keep that on. And I was riding him with his good eye uncovered for a few weeks because the smoke wasn't so bad, but I ended up putting it back on for the smoke. But he's like number 14, number 15 in the herd of 15 horses. He's at the bottom of the barrel. Nobody really likes him. I feel like he likes other horses. Like, he's not mean except to Augie. But everyone's mean to Augie. But he just will hang out on his own in his own little corner. He definitely wants to be around other horses. He likes having a herd, but it doesn't need to be right next to another horse, magnetized to another one. He's just very happy just to have his own little corner to hang out and eat his hay, be with his friends, and he's good like that. But when you have a rider on his back, especially a confident rider, you can ride up to any other horse, including Lady Lonza, including Monty, including Whiskey, and fix something on them, and they're perfectly fine with it. He's perfectly fine with it. So as long as he knows he has some confidence coming from his rider, he's like, oh yeah, I'm a macho man. I'm the best man in the world. So he needs a strong rider, not like strong skill-wise, but confident enough to not be afraid of what's going on, and then he'll take that energy from his rider. But he's a very sweet guy. I mean, he follows me around because usually he's not following other horses. He's a people horse. So you'll usually see us, we'll walk the horses back and forth from the pastures or the riparian, and he'll walk with a person because that's what he feels comfortable with. But once you've got a person on his back, he's super, super confident and he feels like he can do anything. And walking down the trails, I mean, he can still see where he's going out of this eye. He might just trip and stumble a little bit, but I've gotten really good at predicting when that's gonna happen and kind of feeling for it. There was the first few times we went out to the trails, he would trip and I'd go way down with him and almost fall off. And now at this point, I'm just kind of okay, I'll stand up, lift my arm up, let him trip, and then we'll keep going. So he gets his footing very quickly after, but he just takes a few trips every now and then. But yeah, so that's our 5 that we've got over here. And I think we've got time to go visit Mr. Canner back there.
Sure,
who's probably running around freaking out. We have one extra horse who's not a Tennessee Walker. He is a rescued Arabian, and his name is Canner. He was rescued by this very nice gentleman named Mackenzie Cole. And about 10 years ago, let's walk and talk. About 10 years ago, and Canner is not halterable by any of the staff here. I'm sure if it was a emergency and we absolutely had to get a halter on him, we could, but he is a very, very smart horse. He usually will come to us if we've got a handful of grain or something. He's good about going into stalls. He'll follow you into the pastures. But his favorite thing to do is run. So usually at the end of the day, when we're letting all the horses out to pasture, we'll wait for Canner at the very end, because then he'll just bolt. He'll just take off, and he'll make the other horses catch up that are lagging behind. But he's a very, very sweet guy. And,
hi, handsome.
Hi, Canner.
Hi, Canner boy.
It's so amazing to see the horses that recognize their name. You'll say it and their ears perk up, they look at you, they're like, that's me. Hi, mister, can you back up?
And he's a little dirty now. We just turned him out into the sorting pen, and he decided to roll. He knows I've got a little bucket of grain here, so he's very, very food motivated. Oh, yeah. He'll come up to you. He'll allow you to pet him, to touch him, if he knows that you have a little treat for him.
Hi, buddy. Yeah, so Mackenzie has been working with Canner over the last 10 years or so on clicker training. And if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's a positive reinforcement type of training. A lot of people will use it with their dogs. But basically, you ask a command or a skill of them, and then once they do the correct command, you give them a click and you give them a treat. And so they learn by association that that click means that they did the right thing and they're going to get their reward after. So it's a reward-based training. He just licked my hand, how cute. It's a reward-based training system that really benefits the animal because it only gives them positive reinforcement. You're not punishing them for anything. You're not giving them any negative responses. They're only getting told that they're doing a good job. And if they don't do the right thing, you just ignore it. So Mackenzie's been working a lot with Canner on that, which he'll be here this evening at 6:30 to do some clicker training with Canner. So make sure you guys stick around later this evening for that. But, you know, we love having Canner in our herd because he is such a fiery kind of personality. He's got so much spunk, so much energy. He really just kind of livens up the crowd, especially if you need to get the horses moving somewhere and fast, you let Canner go. Let Canner go, give him a little woo, and then he's off with the races, and the rest of the horses are going behind him. So
you dirty buddy, you
not
dirty.
at the top of the herd, but he's not at the bottom either. He definitely gets bossed around, but he also bosses around a few other horses. So there's a lot of horses that are kind of in that middle chunk there that, you know, they're not the top, but they're not the bottom, but they also can tell each other what to do. So Canner's definitely one of those guys. But he's so very sweet. He's so very cute. I had him here for the winter as part of our little winter herd that we had here. At Augie, Canner, and usually two other horses in rotation because none of the staff here can move Canner to our winter field. Only Mackenzie can do that. So we kept him here, and I got to hang out with him all winter. And it was really fun. I mean, he's just so full of personality, and he will always tell you what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You can usually hear him neighing at other horses when he's getting left on his own. But
he is best friends with Mystery, so whenever I take Mystery out to guide rides, when our group of riders is coming back down the trail, we can hear Canner from a distance. Yeah. He gets so excited when he knows his best friend Mystery is coming back.
Yeah. And it's so funny, like he doesn't want to hang out with any other horses. He wants to hang out with Mystery.
Mm-hmm.
The Mystery couldn't care less either. Mystery's like, yeah, whatever, dude. I feel like Mystery's better friends with Raz and Butte than he is with Canner.
Mystery has started really liking Butte, yeah.
But Canner and Mystery, Canner especially, is just right there with him.
All right, buddy. You get your treat now. There you go. There's your treat.
That was all teeth.
Good boy. Oh, these flies. Oh, these flies.
So many flies. Yeah, so usually we'll see Canner a little bit dirty if he's rolling around in the dirt. He's good about taking care of himself. He'll go roll in the grass as soon as he gets the chance to. His hooves are really good at taking care of themselves. There's not too many times where Mackenzie will have to come trim him because he's so good about running that he just kind of runs the hooves down and trims them by himself. But yeah.
Oh boy.
You see Canner and his antics running around. Don't fuck me with that tail.
Oh, sorry. I was going to move the bucket away.
Oh, that's good.
It's okay, buddy. You had your little snack.
He wants more. Yeah.
What a good boy.
Yeah. So Canner and Mystery are going to hang out. Did he break the fence? No, it's just leaning. So Canner and Mystery are going to hang out in these stalls later this afternoon through this evening and night because Mackenzie's going to do training with Canner. And so rather than running the two of them all the way back down the field, down at the bottom of the hill, we're just going to leave them up here together. Horses are good if you separate them from their herd, so long as they have a buddy to hang out with. I mean, for the most part, some horses don't do well if they're just with one other horse, especially if it's one they don't get along with. But
we always take that into consideration. That's another reason it's important for Ashley and I and the other staff here to really understand each horse's individual personality.
Exactly.
Because if we were to leave one horse up here overnight and then selected a buddy to leave with that horse, it would be important that we would leave two horses with personalities that mesh, opposed to, for example, how Ashley was saying, Lady Lonza and Monty don't really get along, so it wouldn't be a good idea to leave the two of them up here, because then they would be bickering all night.
And even just earlier, we had let the rest of the herd go down to our other pasture by the river, and then we put the remaining horses in our dirt pen back here. We call it the sorting pen, just so that way they can walk around, you know, for the next hour or so. But I strategically did not put Lady Lonza in there because we had Monty and Chinook in there, which she doesn't get along with either of them. And then we also had Mystery and Canner in there, all of whom pick on Augie. So if they're picking on Augie, and then Lady Lonza is going to come by to defend Augie, and then she's going to get mad at Monty and Chinook for being associated, we've got a problem. So I specifically left Lady Lonza out of it. We brought Monty over. They got to hang out as boys. And then once we were all ready to go to get this ready, then I started bringing them over one at a time. Lady Lonza by herself on the inside. So you kind of have to be aware of what horses have what personalities and what they're going to do or say to other horses when you're putting them next to one another. So you guys will see in the mornings, we'll put specific horses next to each other solely for that reason of maybe they don't get along with this other horse, so I can't put them next to them.
I mean, it's actually really fascinating how cliquey a herd of horses can be. Even though, you know, we are very fortunate here that our herd, for the most part, they all get along really well. They still have little cliques within the main herd where certain horses are buddy-buddy with each other and not so much with others. And certain horses would prefer not to be close to each other. So those are definitely things that we have to be aware of when we're sorting our horses.
Yellow jacket. Yeah, when I bring them in the morning, or anyone who does, I'm sure you see the same 5 horses are always at the gate first. And then it's the next group of 5 that know they get to go in together. And then it's the last group of 5 that know that they want to go in together, the ones that are at the bottom of the herd. So they know their place, they know their number in the hierarchy, and we have to figure it out.
Absolutely.
Well, let's see. Oh, Mr. Augie untied himself over here, of course.
Well, do you want to bring him right into the round pen, or would you rather?
I guess it's time.
I think he's ready.
I think he's ready. You ready to go back to school, mister? So Augie the magician has untied himself here.
All right, well, Ashley's going to bring Augie in. And so another aspect where their personalities come into play, that's when we learn to communicate with them.
Grab the whip.
And again, this is something, what's that?
Can you grab the whip?
This is something that Ashley and I learned through Brandon Carpenter. He's a phenomenal instructor and trainer, especially in the round pen. So he taught us how to communicate with these horses and really get to know their personalities so that we can work with them efficiently.
I don't know if you want to come in here with me. I don't know if it's going to throw off our angles or if you want to hang out on the outside.
I'll hang out on the outside, but you can hand me his halter if you'd like.
Sure. So this was a lot of the foundation of what Brandon had me doing with Augie, was working him in the round pen. Unfortunately, in November, he ended up showing up with a swollen ankle one morning, and it ended up being cellulitis, an infection in the synovial kind of fluid in his ankle. So he is not supposed to be running. We're not going to run him in the round pen. We don't do any kind of harsh training with him until he, we figure out what's the best option for it, or see if we can start trying some topical treatments to help it. But that doesn't mean we can't still work with him and use his brain for things. So I usually will have him walk around the round pen a few laps. So when we're training horses, we always ask first and then tell. So at first I had asked him with my hand, I pointed where I wanted him to go. I asked him again with a kissy sound to get some more motivation out of him. He still wasn't going as quick as I would have liked it to. So I just told him with the whip here. This is just an extension of my arm to get him to go. I'm not hitting him with it. I'm not hurting him with it. If I needed to tap him on the side or something, I have the reach now to be able to do so without being in the way of legs or head or teeth or anything like that. So the round pen is a great classroom for our horses, and it gives us a good way to get their personalities out. And you'll find a lot of challenges and difficulties with training horses, especially ones that are spoiled like Augie or strong-willed like Lady Lonza. You'll have a hard time getting them to follow your commands because they want to be the ones in charge. But then you have a horse like Mystery who is just so willing to please that he's not going to fight you with it, but if he gets confused of what you're asking, he's going to get frustrated. And so you kind of have to be aware of what is my horse's personality and how far kind of can I push those buttons to get a response out of them. Just waving my whip, getting him to go. So there's been a few times where I've been training with Augie and I end up so frustrated and in tears because I'm just not getting what I want out of him, even though I knew I was asking correctly. So I'm gonna ask him for a turnaround. Good boy. So this is the kind of stuff you guys are gonna see Augie and I working on in the next few weeks here. He's very responsive with this kind of round pen work. I wish we could go a little faster. Once horses start moving faster, their brain starts going faster, and it becomes a lot better to be able to control them at a faster speed. Because if you're out on the trail and you need to stop all of a sudden, you got to be able to pull your horse back from a gallop and get them to stop and not just continue to take off. So it's really important in the round pen to have that kind of control over your horse. Good boy. And whoa. Good job. So we had Brandon out here a few weeks ago, and he had some of the newer staff training Augie. And, I've got very specific cues that I use with him. And if those cues are slightly different from another person, they're probably not going to work. Anya, I don't know if you want to hop in here and try moving Augie around, getting him to turn around.
Well, I was going to say, would you want, I'm muted, by the way.
Okay.
Do you want me to bring Lonza so they can see the difference?
We can. Why don't you hop in here first and do Augie, and then we'll switch and we'll both do Lady Lonza. Because I haven't worked her yet either.
Okay.
But I'm curious to see, because I remember you last time having a hard time getting him going. Just so they can see our personalities versus...
Absolutely, yeah. So
him.
I worked Augie only one time so far. And Augie definitely realized that I'm not the person that normally works with him. So he very much tested me. So see, I mean, immediately, I don't know if you all noticed that, but he was a lot slower to respond than he would have for Ashley. Because he knows, like, okay, there's a different person here. Not only is he figuring out my personality, he's figuring out how serious I am about him having to work right now. Good boy.
And Augie is a very smart horse. He's a good boy.
He is.
Let's see if we can turn him around towards the inside. There he goes. Testing your patience. He's like,
yeah.
oh,
So there I
wait.
reacted a little slowly because he didn't do what I asked him to do right away. And that was, like I said, he's trying to figure out, who is this Anya girl? How serious is she about having me follow her commands? So he's testing me, and that's part of his personality. Like Ashley mentioned, he can be very stubborn and he can be pushy, especially with people that he doesn't work with a lot. So let's see. Keep going, buddy.
Oh, he's being stubborn. Look at him. He's turning his head away from you.
He's turning his head out. He's not ready to give in to me, to pay attention to me. So I'm going to have him do one more lap, and then I'll see again if I can turn him to the inside, see if he'll be a little more responsive this time. And turn. Come on.
Oh, what a good boy.
That was a little better, but still nowhere close of what it would look like when Ashley does this. That's a little better. Good boy.
Look good.
And ho.
Good
Good
job.
boy. What a good boy.
All right, we've got a couple minutes left. We'll trade out Augie for his mom, Lady Lonza. And I know Anya has worked with her in the pen before, but I have not. So I'm very curious to see what kind of personalities are at play here.
I'm just going to leave that here.
Yeah.
Do you want to grab him? I will
will.
grab
Hi, big baby.
Lonza for you.
Big baby. We're going to be having more broadcasts all the rest of this week. Tomorrow, I will join you guys at 8 a.m. with a This Week at the Ranch update. I give you guys a rundown of what we're expecting to happen at the ranch, any cool events that we need to know of. And then Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., we'll be having a sunrise tour with James. We did those all winter long, and it was always so beautiful to be able to wake up with the ranch and see the birds and see, you know, who's hanging out at the bird feeders eating all the seeds and everything. And then Thursday, I think we have 2 broadcasts going on. We'll have Anya with the captains, our 2 Halflinger Shetland ponies, as they pull their carriage. So she'll be online with Brandon doing the teletraining with the ponies. And then Thursday afternoon, we'll be joined with Suzanne, the ranch owner, and Paula Goldberg, who is a longtime friend of the ranch. They're going to be doing a little broadcast on our history of painting horses here at the ranch. So be sure to stay tuned for those later this week.
Come on, lady. And we got up to the gate, and she decided I'd like to stop at the gate and go back out.
And you'll see her kind of tossing her head. She's very frustrated about being asked to work.
Come on. So when I point my arm, I'm asking her to step up, move a little faster. And when she's not responding, I just swap that whip behind her. But that whip is an extension of my arm, so I'm not actually using that to strike her with it. I'm using that to give her some pressure. So I'm giving her some incentive to actually walk a little bit faster. And then once she does walk faster, I stop swatting it. So now if you notice she's slowed down, she's being a little lazy. Come on, up, up, up.
But she's also just blatantly ignoring you.
She is. Get up.
There you go.
There we go. That's a good girl. Keep it going. Keep it going. There we go. Keep going. Let's go. Come
She has no interest in going at any other speed other than the one that she wants to, which is a very good testament to her personality. You got to make it her idea.
Absolutely. So I'm going to see if I can get her to turn. Come on. She's not interested in this work session. Come on, yep. Let's go. So I'm moving in closer. I'm giving her pressure. I'm asking her to move. Letting her know that this is, we're kind of doing what Anya wants to do, not what she wants to do. And she's starting to lick. She's moving. She's chewing in her mouth. She's starting to lick. That means she's slowly getting into work mode, but she's still very much resisting me right now.
Good
There
lady.
we go. Good girl. Easy.
So you can see just how much effort it's taking to get her to do anything.
Absolutely.
Versus an Augie or a Mystery who you just have to kind of think about the next step and they're like, okay, I'm on it. So there's some horses that are a lot more responsive, a lot easier to especially strangers controlling them.
Absolutely.
Versus other horses that are like, yeah, I'm just not gonna do it. Not gonna do what you want me to do.
Get up. Let's walk a little faster. Shh.
All right.
How are we doing for time?
We are coming to the end of it here.
All right. Ooh.
She's like, yeah, I'll stop. Oh.
Do you want to try her real quick? Or do you want...
You gotta correct that. That was not a good stop.
Come on, hop. Let's go. Yep.
That was a rolling stop. That was a
It was a
California
rolling
stop.
stop. It was her idea, not my idea. Come on.
There you go. Keep her at a trot and then halter.
Yep. And who?
Much better.
That's better.
Good lady. Yeah, I think we'll just go ahead and sign off.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. All right,
So-
well, thank you everyone for joining us. We hope to see you again soon, and definitely sign in tonight to see Mackenzie with some clicker training with Canner.
Yep, 6:30 Mountain Standard Time, and then we'll be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
Sounds great.
Have a good night, everyone. See ya.